Hey there, it's Ruth Sherman, CEO and celebrity speech and media coach. Today I want to teach about stage fright. Every year or so, I'm reminded by talking to a client or a prospect that this is a topic that is of concern to them and of concern to a lot of people. And I haven't written about it or talked about it in a while. So now's the time. It's actually going to be a little longer than usual, so you might want to get out some note-taking capabilities, or you can watch the video again, or you can read again. And I'm going to use notes because, as people know who know me know, I don't work without a net, and I don't expect anyone else to work without one either. Anyway, in this case, it was a prospect who told me that she was absolutely terrified anytime she had to be out there in public in any form, and it was significantly hindering her ability to be successful, even though she was already a highly successful venture capitalist. She'd raised several $1,000,000, and she was doing some truly groundbreaking work. And when people hear about that kind of thing, they want you to come and speak. And so she was getting invitations to speak at some very big forums. The kinds of things that most of us only dream of being asked to take the stage at. And she was turning them all down. And this, she knew, was a problem. And so kudos to her for calling on me, for inquiring about getting some help with this. But also, of course, and I told her this, and I'm telling you, it's just so sad because it's simply unnecessary, even for somebody like her. So I want to talk about the different types of stage fright and what you can do to ameliorate them, or to help you manage those feelings, those fight or flight feelings, so that they work for you versus against you. In my long experience, I found there are two types of stage fright. For you sticklers out there, I'm going to say it right now. There are many permutations of these two types, but I'm being general here, or this would be a 50-minute video instead of just a few minutes. So there are two types of stage fright. There's the type which I would say 95% of my clients feel, which is when they have to stand up before a group of people and the stakes are high. Again, about 95% of the clients I work with have this situation. Then there's the type when the fear and the anxiety are so great that it might be considered clinical. And that, I think, was the category that this prospect fell into, which is why I felt it was worthwhile to talk about it. The good news is that there are solutions for both. People who work with me know that this is something that can be managed. Anyway, let's start with the first group. The first group is most people. Most people fall into this category. You know how it goes. You have a speaking engagement, or you've got to lead an important meeting, and the stakes are very high. Perhaps the room for your speaking engagement is filled with your perfect clients and prospects, right? People who absolutely need and are perfect customers for your product or service. Or you're out there leading a meeting and your CEO is expected to attend. So again, stakes are high and you're feeling the symptoms. You're feeling your heartbeat. I just gestured there. The heart's beating very fast. Your mouth may feel dry. Your perspiration increases. Your palms get sweaty or clammy. Your mind goes blank. All of these symptoms, there are many more, but these are some of the more common ones. You feel trembly. You're feeling out of sorts. You're not feeling yourself, and you're not feeling, as a result, that you can be at your best. That was my bird screaming over there in the corner. So these fight or flight feelings are manageable. Now, when experienced speakers feel these feelings, and they all do. Nobody doesn't feel stage fright to some extent. When experienced speakers feel these feelings, they understand that those feelings can work for them versus against them. They've learned to manage those feelings through a tremendous amount of practice and experience. One of my favorite sayings is practice plus experience equals spontaneity. It gives them the opportunity to go off on tangents and to come back, to deal with any of the inevitable things that go wrong. Can I tell you, I was speaking at two very big, well-known technology companies this past year. Companies you know, products and services of theirs you use. I'm not going to name them, but the technology went down. Can I tell you that I will never feel badly when technology goes down? I'll never feel it's my fault again, ever, after those experiences, and I'm sharing them with you so you know. So the technology can go down, you can drop your notes, people can interrupt, they can want you to go off on tangents, you can get heckled, although that's rare, but it does happen. People take issue with you. There can be a fire drill. I have had the experience of sitting doing an important presentation, and the fire alarm went off at the venue. You cannot make this stuff up. And of course, after we got back, I had to get right back on track. Now, because experienced speakers have practiced and they prepared adequately, these things are par for the course. They are able to stay on track, get back on track, and as I said, use those feelings to help them stay interesting and be more engaging. And what the best case scenario is when I work with clients and I tell them that this will happen, the more they do it, that after they practice enough and they get out there enough, the stage fright feelings, the really intense feelings, those symptoms that I mentioned earlier, will be most intense right in the first few seconds. As they're leading up to it, they're walking out onto the platform, and then they're opening their mouth to speak their first few words, and then those feelings dissipate. And you get into that zone, and you even can have some fun. So that's the zone that we try to get people to get to. Again, it's practice. Okay, too often, however, what ends up happening is that with the inexperienced speakers is they don't practice enough. And that is the biggest obstacle for all my busy clients. They think it should just take a little bit of practice, and everyone's different. Some people need more practice than others. Everybody's different, and I don't know what it's like for you, but you've got to practice enough so that you feel comfortable. And for some people, I will tell you quite honestly, for me, I've got to practice a lot, more than I want to. And you might have to practice more than you want to. And I will tell you something else. Practice is a pain. It is tedious and boring. And there's always something more interesting to do. There's always a crisis, God forbid, or something, a fire to put out, certainly for most of us in positions of responsibility. But most importantly, it's boring and tedious, but you have to do it anyway. So before people engage me, I'm very clear about what it's going to take to do well, because I know if they don't practice, they're not going to be successful. It's a recipe for failure. And if they don't do well, it's not good for either of us. So I'm very clear about that. When you've practiced enough, as I said, and the right way, there's a way to practice, then again, you get into that zone. And that's the best case scenario, so that you can actually relax and enjoy it and have some fun. That's the goal. For that group, in case I haven't made it clear, practice is the cure for stage fright. It doesn't go away entirely, but you learn to manage it, right? It dissipates, it gets less and less and less, and then you learn to manage what's left of it. The second type of stage fright is the kind that prospect seemed to have been feeling, and requires a little something extra. It requires practice for sure, but it also requires something extra. These people are suffering so terribly that it is hindering their progress in their work and in their lives, frankly, and they avoid any situation that might exacerbate it, that might bring on these feelings. It is that uncomfortable and painful for them. So they'll turn down awesome speaking engagements. They won't volunteer to lead meetings. They won't even call somebody like me. I don't see a lot of them. I don't see a lot of them because they have given up. They think they've always had these kinds of feelings. It goes back a long, long way, and they've basically given up on there being any help out there for them, which is absolutely a shame. But there is help. There is help. And it's medication. Do you know I've never talked about this on one of my videos before, but I'm talking about it now. Now, you may have even read about world-class musicians who, before an important audition, will take what has become known as the stage fright drug. I am not a doctor and I don't diagnose, so please understand that, but I have had enough experience where upon listening to people who are inquiring about my services, talk about what's going on for them, that will lead me to suggest they pay a visit to their doctor, and perhaps this could be a solution for them, or part of a solution for them. The medication I'm talking about, the stage fright drug, is more commonly known as a beta blocker. And beta blockers are commonly prescribed to people with high blood pressure and or migraines and other conditions. And the difference between those patients and somebody who might need a beta blocker for stage fright is that those patients would take that medication regularly. So they would take it every day according to the way it's prescribed to manage their physical or health condition. For stage fright, if that's what a person needs, it's taken as needed. So it's taken some time before a person has to stand up before a group and present. Can I tell you, I've seen this medication work miracles for people. They have come to me and thanked me profusely for telling them about it. A lot of people don't know it's out there and don't know it exists. So that is the stage fright medication, the beta blocker, which will absolutely work. Now, there's a caveat. There are people who are not eligible to take it. Okay, so which is why you have to get it prescribed by a doctor. But even for those people, don't give up hope. There are workarounds, and I have worked with people who cannot take it for one reason or another, and we've worked around it and made it work for them. So as I mentioned a moment ago, these people, by the way, still need to practice. All of the same rules and techniques and practices apply, but they've got to get to a point where they're willing to get out there and speak. They're willing to do the practice, to get out there and speak, because what happens with people who are eligible or in that second group, eligible for that medication, or whose lives will be made much more easy by the medication, they get nervous and in terrible straits even when they're working with me. So we eliminate that, but they still have to practice. And then that becomes variable, depends on how they learn and what kind of practice they do, but all of the same things still apply. The point again is to be able to get to the point where you can do the gig and practice to work up to it. So the cure for stage fright is either practice alone or practice plus a little something extra in the form of the stage fright drug. By the way, we are going to cover all this and more in my upcoming program, Command the Room, which starts on September 23rd. And there is a link on this page with all the details. If you have any questions, please let me know.